Simon Told Helen wins a half length. Zach Manelli second.
Welcome to Greyhound Gossip.
Peaky Blinders start cheering for Tommy Shelby wins the WA Sprint Championship final.
Featuring Peter O'Neill and Leia Ernest.
Mozza moves up to Mermaid Manelli. Fab's Gem 3 deep. Here comes Fab's Gem.
Hard Style Rico by 5 lengths to Simon Told Helen. Third Tommy Shelby.
This segment is dedicated to the discussion and promotion of greyhound racing.
Cindy's Oliver, Rockstar Patriot, Paul Stewart, back-to-back with Rockstar Patriot in the Galaxy.
Handsome Prince, a bolder clear. The former Tasmanian Handsome Prince has won the $1 million chase.
Ready racing, jumping quickly was Crumble Manelli, also showing speed was Kenya Kraken, but Crumble went straight across, found the top. Kenya Kraken headed for the first time, goes to second, then followed by Sneaky Peaky. In behind them was Custard Manelli. Well back in the field was My Time. West on Odie, second last was a Rockanui, putting Manelli's last of all off the back. Crumble Manelli the leader, out by 2.5 on Kenya Kraken, then followed by Sneaky Peaky. Custard Manelli as they start to swing. Crumble Manelli is still clear by 2 lengths. He takes out the Derby. Crumble Manelli by 2.5 lengths wins the Derby. Second goes to Sneaky Peaky ahead of Custard Manelli.
And that was the WA Derby, the Group 2 WA Derby, taken out by Crumble Manelli, who also won the Sandgroper and the Mandurah Derby this year. And, of course, we say a very good morning to you, Peter O'Neill. What a fantastic year it's been for Crumble.
Certainly, Leigh, it's been remarkable. Good morning to you. Good morning, everyone. The Britain's former WA Derby, they've been great supporters of chasing in WA for such a long period of time, and hasn't Crumble Manelli dominated the chasing scene? He's now won 10 of 15 at Cannington. He's won 18 of 24 in his career, placed on another 5 occasions, and a greyhound who's now won his last 5 and winning the Sandgroper, also winning the Mandurah Derby and the WA Derby. Not too many greyhounds have been able to do that in the past. It was remarkable, and the David Hobby juggernaut Crumble Manelli continues on. Great run too by the second place getter Sneaky Peaky, the first of Tommy Shelby's progeny to actually make it to the track, so into a Group 2 I should say, making it to a Group 2 final, and that was a really good run ahead of Custard Manelli in what was a really big night, also featuring heats of the WA Oaks there on Saturday night, Leia.
Yeah, it was fantastic, and I thought the Oaks were really, really good heats, and you got to call all the action, of course, Pete, and there were 5 heats there. Four heats there of the Oaks. Which one was your favourite?
Well, the quickest was Flying Frida. We'll get to her. We've got a snippet of her replay in just a moment, but she came across from a wide draw. And, of course, she's a daughter of Tommy Shelby, defeating Tweak Freak. So those two making it through. Bell McBlazer gave Shane Williams a big night. He had a couple of runners through to the final, defeating Disco Daisy in the second heat. The third heat, West on Blossom. Chris Holst with 2 favourites through to the series on Saturday night, defeating Kenya Mia, and then Rip and Grace was dominant, winning the 4th heat by 9 lengths over whatever shorty. But Flying Frida, as we mentioned, a daughter of Tommy Shelby. Let's listen to the concluding stages of her dominant win in the opening heat of the WA Oaks.
Back 3 as they travel down the back straight. The leader is Flying Frida, out by 2.5 on Tweak Freak. 5 lengths behind them, Notorious Harada. Jamie keeping as they swing, though. Flying Frida going very strongly. The daughter of Tommy Shelby races into the Group 2 Oaks, and Flying Frida wins by 3.
Yeah, so the daughter of Tommy Shelby, and we thought it was a good time to get Steve Withers on the line because Steve, of course, with that close association being the trainer of Tommy Shelby, and he had a great run with him while as a race dog, and he must be thrilled along with the connections with the way Tommy Shelby has started his career. We started seeing him with winners on the East Coast, and now here in WA, they're flying at the moment, second in a WA Derby, and now the favourite with Flying Frida drawing box 4 and the $3.50 favourite in the Oaks. And Steve joins us this morning. Steve, good morning.
Morning, guys. How are you doing?
Yeah, very well. You must be wrapped with the way that Tommy Shelby's progeny are coming along at the moment, and their chasing ability, just like their father.
Yeah, look, it's amazing. It's really nerve-wracking because you've got absolutely no influence on how they go as a stud dog or a producer at all. And we've got them all black booked around the country, and whether it's at Gunnedah or Murray Bridge or Albion Park or Cannington, we sit down and watch and cheer them all on like you're really emotionally attached to them like they're your own. So it's been a whirlwind start, and hopefully it keeps going.
Steve, a great man on social media, mentioned yesterday, if you're not on board the Tommy Shelby train, you're being left behind. And, I mean, that's not wrong at all. Tommy's progeny has had about 50 wins now since his first pup to hit the track, powered up, one for Jamie Hosking back in January. You guys must be absolutely stoked.
Absolutely stoked, yeah. And we've got a kennel full of them ourselves, and they've got a lot of personality like Tommy and show a lot of traits like he do. And everybody's saying the same thing around the country. And yeah, look, he's running at like a 20% winning strike rate as a producer at the moment. And a lot of his offspring are running 500 metres very early in their career. So the signs are awesome.
Steve, I've got a young pup, as you know, that's coming through at the moment, and so I've been watching the trials, and everyone, especially the Holst Kennel, are talking about the progeny of Tommy Shelby. This daughter, Flying Frida, a remarkable story in her own right, because she's by Tommy Shelby out of West on Violet, and I was speaking with Justin Warwick after her brilliant win there the other night, and he said she was the runt of the litter. He had to, in the first week of her life, had to keep her in an incubator to help her along and assist her, and she's come out flying, and 29.76 is brilliant. That's her second career victory at just her second start, and now she's the favourite in the Group 2 WA Oaks. Did you think that his progeny, Tommy Shelby's progeny, would fly so early?
Well, you hope. That's certainly what you start out with, and that's about all you've got, because you've seen so many superstar and champion dogs before you go to start, and bitches at start as well, and it doesn't always replicate. But yeah, we've been thrilled, and Flying Frida's got a lot of fight in her, and obviously it started early in her life, but she's been racing super well the last few months, and without luck with the box draws either. So, yeah, we were thrilled to see her get across and get on the arm. And there's 5 bitches out of that direct litter, the Barcia Bales, Elmar Fever cross, that have all been to Tommy, and it looks an amazing cross. We've got some ourselves that are very frightening.
And also the fact that his first ever runner in a Group 2 final, Sneaky Peaky, was able to run second behind Crumble Manelli. That's a boost for him as well.
Yeah, it looks like he's inherited his dad's box draws as well, coming from the pink. But he chased super. It was a huge run. Obviously, Crumble's a super dog, and when he gets on the arm, he's all but unbeatable. But yeah, Sneaky Peaky was great. He sort of chased and kept pushing and got a couple of bumps and checks, but he kept coming, and he's a real race dog. So yeah, Jackie and Gary done a great job with him.
He had a lot of interest very early on. How's he going at the moment, Tommy Shelby himself, and how is the interest with him from owners of bitches around Australia and around the world? Because I know that he's got some progeny that have hit the ground in the UK as well.
Well, Tommy himself's living an absolute dream. He's sitting at home there this morning watching the repeat mating, actually, of Sneaky Peaky in that litter. They've all started whelping down last night. So, yeah, he's living the life of dreams. He's got a great life. He loves it. But, yeah, the interest's big. We've actually, in the last few weeks, we've had some really big camps come in and do some major purchases in bulk, just sort of investing in the future. And, yeah, we're well up into the mid-200 litters or 200 straws that have been out there on the market now. So it's very strong. And the way they're racing, they're winning at the Meadows, Sandown, Cannington. There's some really good pups coming through behind. It doesn't really look like it's going to stop anytime soon, or we hope not.
Before we let you go, Steve, have you got any litters being whelped at the moment?
We've got one, yeah, the repeat mating of Sneaky Peaky, Joker Poker, Tommy Shelby. They started last night around midnight. So, yeah, they're still going at the moment. But, yeah, we've got a couple of litters in the shed there that'll all debut and start and race over the next 2 months. And, yeah, it looks promising. We just hope they go super like their dad in the full field.
Yes, and their mum as well. Well, thank you very much, Steve, and we'll definitely keep an eye on all the Tommy Shelby progeny coming through.
Appreciate your time, guys.
Fantastic. Steve Withers there joining us on Greyhound Gossip this morning, and we're going to continue on the show with our next special guest. We have got the chairman of Sandown Greyhounds joining us, and when I speak of Neil Brown, Neil, very good morning to you.
Good morning, Leia, and to Peter, my old mate there. I'm sure he's not far away.
Yeah, I'm here, Neil. Big news coming out, which we'll get to about the 150th anniversary, but it came up on my memories last week on Facebook. It's remarkable what Facebook can do. The record, the track record that Miata set, it was a number of years ago now, but at Sandown, great memories for me and for the West Australian followers, and you'd remember that run fondly.
Yes, I do. I actually recall watching the race with Jackie Greenough. And we were astounded at the time. We both looked at each other and thought, wow, we knew what Miata was probably capable of, but to witness it is something different and very special. And I've seen a few track records over the years, Pete, and that's one that stays in my mind.
Big year for greyhound racing in Victoria, celebrating the 150th anniversary in 2023 and also the Nationals later this year. But it was a great announcement a couple of weeks ago that there's at the Sports Museum at the Melbourne Cricket Ground that Greyhound Racing Victoria have got an exhibition. So those that go across and want to go to the football or go to the racing, well worth going down and having a look at the MCG Sports Museum. And also great and a great honour for you as well that the Sandown Greyhound Racing Club revealed at the same venue that there's going to be a museum at Sandown Park, and it's going to be named the Neil Brown Museum, which I think is fantastic and great for you because you've put so much into the sport of greyhound racing over so many years.
Yes, Peter, was quite an honour, and the club kept it a pretty well kept secret indeed, because I'm around the place a lot and I know what's going on, and the board were very tight-lipped about that announcement, and it's wonderful for my family and my grandchildren to as a legacy later on. But we've been working on the museum at Sandown for quite a few years now, and it was an idea of 15 or so years ago that we thought it'd be nice to have a designated area, and it's taken some time, but certainly our current administration, CEO Adrian Scott and Bernadette Dillon, our business manager, they've really driven this in the last 18 months or so, and I've been obviously involved, and it's going to be quite a showpiece, and we're putting a lot of money and effort into making sure it represents the industry extremely well, and people can come and go at their leisure to have a look at the museum whenever they may be at Sandown Park. Particularly interesting for greyhound folk of interstate when they're at Sandown to race or to go to a meeting, Pete. So, it's a great honour, and I'm quite humbled by it, Pete.
It is really fantastic, Neil, especially for the sport, and to get other people who might not be involved to know more about the industry itself. What can people expect when they go to the museum?
At Sandown, we've got numerous artefacts we've been collecting. They cover the coursing era. It will cover in detail Sandown's involvement since 1935. We've split it into sort of three eras. At the cover the club, we raced where the Sandown Park horse racing track is now, and we raced there until 1955 when we moved across to our current site. And that was sort of redeveloped with the big grandstand built in 87, and then a big, rather large track redevelopment where we moved where the track was in 1995 and built the new kennel block, and we've tried to enhance it also. Renovations have gone on upstairs in the grandstand area and everywhere around the place. So and all sorts of bits and pieces have been donated. We've got an old bookie stand and a bag which people wouldn't see too often these days. Will be on display, and lots of artefacts, as I say, coursing, slipping collars, and paraphernalia from the coursing days, and a myriad of photos that we've got from Melbourne Cups back in the late 50s and 60s, and right through to the current day, and great champions will be on display. We've got the mighty Bold Trees, who won 4 Sandown Cups. The feat will never be equalled. We've got a beautiful photo, large painting type photo of Bold Trees, and so all sorts of bits and pieces, and well on display. We've got a video presentation, I think they call them a console, where you press and have a look at a video of different greyhound races, perhaps the mighty 2015 Melbourne Cup, one we remember so fondly with Dinah Double One and Fernando Bale will be able to be viewed. So, looking forward to putting it all together, and we look like we'll open on a Sunday now in early July.
You told me, Neil, that you're going to have a timeline up on the wall as well. Tell us about that timeline, and will we see the 17th of May 2016, that 9-length victory by Miata on there?
Well, I'm sure we're going to have a photograph or one of Miata's amazing posters that we had done at Sandown Park and go out to the public. She'll be there somewhere. Whether we put that mighty run there, we've got to find it, Peter, but I'm sure it's somewhere in the office.
I can find it for you.
I'm sure we can source it from the west in any case. So, yeah, I think that's probably a fitting run to be able to people to access, Pete.
You mentioned that there will be a timeline on there, and you mentioned Bold Trees, one of the, if not the greatest stayer of all time, and the 4 Sandown Cups, and you went down to, I think it was Warrnambool early this year during the carnival, and you might have been able to acquire those 4 Sandown Cups that will be able to be on display.
Yeah, well, a great friend of Sandown, Normie McCulloch, been racing and Hall of Fame trainer, and he's been at it. He's still training. He had one in on Warrnambool Cup night when I caught up with him, and we had a good chat. He's still doing well in his 84th year, and I sort of asked Norm about the trophy. So 4 Sandown Cups, and he's got them obviously beautifully displayed in his home. And after a bit of persuasion, Norm agreed to let the club have the trophies further down the line at an appropriate time. So we're looking forward to those 4 cups being on display at Sandown in the future, when that will occur. But yeah, so a special place for them. That's where the mighty Bold Trees won them. So it'd be nice to have them in the museum underneath the amazing photo of him standing on the beach at Warrnambool with the cups, which is a classic photo that was taken many, many years ago.
And you've also spoken to the Wheelers about the possibility of Fernando Bale once he passes. He's been a wonderful race dog and a wonderful sire as well, that you'll be able to use him in the museum.
Well, we hope so. I've had some really meaningful conversations with Jan Wheeler and the Wheeler family in regard to Fernando. I think he probably now stands at the top of the tree. It's very, very difficult to measure greyhounds from different eras over such long periods of time, but I think his race record stands alone, and now together with his incredible record at stud as a stud dog and as a producer, it probably maybe just puts him above Tim Lee and Chief Havoc and a couple of others that are in that sort of area. And we'd be delighted to be able to have Fernando on display, and we're hoping that all comes together as well when he does pass. And he was at the launch of the 150th. He's a bit of a special guest at a number of functions these days. He's still he's about 10. I think he's about 10 years and 8 months old, and he's looking a little bit aged, but he still gets about well, and the crowd love to pat him and to get up close to him. He's been such a phenomenal greyhound in so many areas, hasn't he, Pete?
He certainly has. He's been a wonderful chaser. Just before we let you go, the Sandown Cup coming up on Thursday night. We had the heats there the other night. Untapped currently at $4.50. $3.80 about Corborn Magic, who's drawn box number 2. $5.50 about Moraine Susie. And what's the 8? Zipping Orlando has drawn box 8 and currently at $4.60. Do you have a tip?
Well, it's wide open. I'll be barracking for Untapped to go back to back, mainly because she was a syndication dog. It's a bit of a pin-up girl for our syndications, which we put a lot of time and effort into. And the club, at the end of the sort of syndication situation, became the lion's share owner of Untapped. So we are barracking for her. She has earned us quite a bit of money in her very successful race career. So I think she might be able to get out and lead. Dustin Rue was very buoyed about her chances last week, and I did clearly tip her, and they just nailed her in the end at nice odds. I think she can lead all the way, Pete, but it is very open. Definite chances to Zippy Orlando. He had a run on the track, and it's a fairly open race, isn't it? But Untapped on top for me, beautifully drawn in one. I think she can lead and maybe win the race exactly the same way she won it last year. She got out in front and they couldn't get her.
Neil, we could talk to you all day. There's so much to chat about in regards to the 150 years celebration of greyhound racing. But before we let you go, just quickly, in your time in greyhound racing, what would you say has been one of the biggest achievements we've had in the sport?
I think, to be quite honest, I think personally the direction that the sport has taken since 2015 has been outstanding in regard to all aspects of it. and I think we're seen by the public as a far better betting option and a sport that has really corrected some of the things that weren't quite so right in the way we did things. So welfare and rehoming of greyhounds and I think being able to get to the general public and show them just what sort of greyhounds, what sort of dogs and pets and animals that greyhounds are. I think we've made absolutely giant strides since then, so I think it's been very significant, the change that we had to have introduced after 2015.
And what can we expect for the Nationals later this year? I'm coming across, so looking forward to that, Neil. Be able to have a beer with you. We won't talk football, but we'll talk about the great sport of greyhound racing and the 150th year. I'm sure Greyhound Racing Victoria, the Meadows, will do it very, very well.
Yes, they always do, and we're delighted to have them in Victoria. I can assure you they won't be spectacular as last time, Peter. I think we set a benchmark that couldn't be touched again, going to the MCG and Marina Pryor singing out there with Wayne Carey and Ricky Ponting, and it was quite spectacular, which I know you enjoyed immensely your time last time we had them. And, but the Meadows will do it very well, and they've got a Western Australian in charge in Dave Simonetti, so we know what sort of an event Dave can put together, so looking forward to what he comes up with. So, and it's always great to have you in town too, Peter.
Well, it'll be the first time I get to ever see live, you won't believe this, live a straight race. I've never ever seen a straight race live, and you've got the national finals for straight racing at Healesville this year. So I'm looking forward to getting out there on the Saturday morning and then to the Meadows on Saturday night. And hopefully a couple of West Australian greyhounds can be in form and come across and fly the WA flag well, Neil.
Well, I'm sure they will. And, it's a beautiful place, Healesville, a lovely venue. I'm sure you're going to enjoy it out there. And we've got the Waterloo Cup on down at Langley on Sunday afternoon. So that's a famous event, and the 150th running of that is that weekend as well. So, it's just going to be fabulous from Thursday onwards, and I'm looking forward to it here in the home state. But I'm sure the West Aussies will fly the flag, as they always do.
Just tell our listeners quickly before we let you go, and I know we were wrapping you up, but the Waterloo Cup, tell our listeners what that is. Many of them over here wouldn't have heard of the Waterloo Cup. Yeah,
the Waterloo Cup's a famous name of a coursing event. This is where two greyhounds go against each other, and it originated in the UK, was brought to our shores here. The first Waterloo Cup was run in Victoria in 1873, hence the 150-year celebration. It's won by a little fawn bitch called Miss Heller, and we've had the Waterloo Cup every year since. And it's a coursing event. We've got about 9 clubs here still active in Victoria that conduct meetings right through the winter months. And the greyhounds are drawn into fields of 8 or 10. And in the case of the Waterloo Cup, there'd be probably around 60 or so nominations, and they go head to head until we get down to the last 2. And they can run over. It's run over a couple of days, obviously, and the dogs we cover. It's up the straight and behind the drag lure now, but then, of course, in the olden days they chased hares, and I saw still live hare racing still in Ireland, where coursing is quite as big as track racing over there. And I was there in 2018 and enjoyed 3 days. So that's what coursing's all about. But the Waterloo Cup down at Langling, my old club, I was the race broadcaster there for about 16 or 17 years. So looking forward to getting down on the Sunday afternoon. So it's a lot going on over the Nationals this year.
All right, mate. Thanks for joining us. Congratulations on having the new museum at Sandown named after you. Great honour and well-deserved. We look forward to catching up with you over at the Greyhound Nationals in August. Thanks for joining us.
Good on you, Pete. Thank you, Leia. Bye.
So Neil Brown joining us as we go to the first time we've ever had a King's Counsel on our program, Leia. So we're going to another level now. Tom Percy, KC, joins us, and we say a very good morning to him. Tom, good morning.
Morning, guys. How are you?
I never thought I'd be speaking to a KC on greyhound gossip ever, but I was lucky enough to have your company out at Cannington last Wednesday, and we enjoyed having a greyhound win together. First time that's happened as well. Curate's egg, and you'd be able to tell us, because a lot of people are asking, where the name actually came from.
Well, the curate's egg is an old English parable about an egg which was allegedly good in parts, and that was the title of my first novel. And Linda and Chris obviously came to the launch of the book, and they said, we've got to call a dog this. It's an original name. It's a really, really original name for a dog. And I said, oh, that's good. She said, we'll just have to wait till we get one good enough. And it's been quite a long wait, but as you know, a certain dog emerged on the scene, and she said, we'll call this one the curate's egg.
Tom, I have to ask, because I have Googled curate's egg just because I wanted to know the definition, and it's partly good but mainly bad. Do you think that for a greyhound that's the best name for a greyhound? I mean, what do you think as well, Pete?
Look, it's just a parable. I don't know if you know the origin of the story, and I won't go into it because it's too long, but it doesn't really mean that. It just it means an impression that one has, and that something can be completely good or predominantly good, but perhaps have some faults. And I think we all have some faults. I'm sure the dog probably does at some stage too, but he's not showing any at the moment.
No, and we don't normally. I have expressed my concern for the name in the past, and not so much curate's egg, but the fact that couldn't get a name through. But that's for another day, Tom. But is a curate? Am I correct? And you're a very learned man. Is a curate like a priest under a bishop, or not? Or am I reading that wrong?
Yeah, it's a young, aspiring, up-and-coming priest who hopes one day to be like a bishop or an archbishop, something like that, in charge of a small parish. And the story goes that the young curate had breakfast one day with the archbishop, and the first course was boiled eggs, and the one that the curate got wasn't very good. And the archbishop said, is there something wrong, curate? And he said, no, it's actually quite good in parts. So it's an old English expression which means something that has a lot of value, but may be perceived as having some shortcomings.
Just before we get on to your involvement in greyhound racing, the Curate's Egg, the book, The Curate's Egg, how's that going, and is it still available?
Well, about 6 months ago, completely sold out. It's Australasia-wide, and so we've just done a reprint, and the reprint's available now. So it's available. It's
a very good read.
Gammons and things like that.
Mm. All right, very good read, and well worth having a read of it, because it goes through, even though it's not a true story, is it, Tom? It goes through some of the history points of some very big things that happened in Western Australia and Bali and around the world as well.
Well, it's not a true story. It's a conglomerate of a lot of experiences I had as a lawyer, and it's got little bits and pieces of various cases that no one would recollect, but they're all true, and they're woven around a mythical character. There's a lot of horse racing and gambling and things like this in the book, but it's been very well received, and I'm halfway through the sequel.
Looking forward to reading that. Now, we just spoke with Neil Brown. 150 years greyhound racing's been going in Victoria, and they're celebrating that this year. Next year, we have 50 years of racing, greyhound racing here in Western Australia, and you were involved almost at the very start. We started racing in 1974, and you had your first winner from memory in around 1977?
I think that's right. Yeah, I remember listening to the first greyhound race. I was fascinated by the whole thing. I've actually been to the dogs in the eastern states. I thought it was terrific that we got it here, and I've followed it very closely for the last almost 50 years.
So you would have been. Were you studying then, or were you actually out? Yeah,
no, I was a student. I remember I was during my holidays for some pocket money. I used to work at the wheat bins out in the wheat belt, and I remember sitting in a car, trying desperately to get a broadcast of the first ever greyhound race on air, and I managed to do it. So the rest is history.
Okay, so the first greyhound that you owned was a greyhound by the name of Cannon Newell, who won in 1977, and Chris Freeman was the trainer?
That's right, yeah. I think he's still around the place.
Yeah, and you've had some very good greyhounds in recent years. You had Patchy Cat, One Time Square, the Mandurah Derby winner last year, Bubbles Away. You've also got one, I think, racing at Northam today, don't you?
Yeah, that's Maruga Scorpion. She's not Miata, mate, but she does her best.
Yeah, no, well, that's all you want, and she's been a good money spinner for you. What do you like about greyhound racing? Because you've been across all three codes. You've, in the last month, you've won trotting races with Greg Bond and Chris Folk. You also had the Chief Justice win with Neville Parnham, and Manitoba won the other day for Billy Luthwaite. So you've been involved in all three codes. What do you like about greyhound racing?
Look, I think it's affordable, and I think that it doesn't cost you a fortune. The average bloke can be involved in greyhound racing. You can be an owner. And I think the smaller fields means it's comparatively easy to back a winner. And I think it's just a simpler, quicker, more convenient form of race ownership for anyone who wants to be involved. And the other thing is that the greyhounds themselves are such lovely animals, and there's a big future for them after they retire. It's a bit hard to go and see a horse or give a horse home in the metropolitan area in your backyard when it retires, but you can do that with a greyhound, and I think it's always had a lot of attraction to people who are interested in horse racing or racing sports generally, and I think it will always be there. There's a group of people who say, oh, greyhound racing's doomed. That's rubbish. Greyhound racing's here to stay.
Oh, I'm definitely in agreement with you, Tom. I'm not sure if you caught the tail end of the conversation we had with Neil Brown, the chairman of Sandown, earlier on, but we're celebrating 150 years of greyhound racing, and it's absolutely incredible. And it's really nice that you've been able to be a part of the sport from such a young age and through the majority of the time not the majority of the time that the sport's been around, because I'm assuming you're not 150, but it's been so fantastic. And we've had people like Linda Britton, she's in the Hall of Fame, and she, her and Chris both train your greyhound. How did you get involved with Linda and Chris?
She had a little confrontation with the stewards at one stage, I hesitate to say, but I met her professionally in that thing, and we both got on very well, both me, Linda and Chris, and she said, would you want to be in a couple of dogs? I said, absolutely, I'd love to be in dogs with you guys, and it just went from there. So, I think there's a lot of clients I've had over the years. It's not for me, it's not a client lawyer relationship at all levels and always will be. I'm friends with a lot of my ex-clients, and that probably sets me apart from a lot of lawyers who see it as just business. I see them as people, and I like to engage in their life and their lifestyles and their stories. And over the years, I had a lot of fun with Chris and Linda.
They're very fond of you, Tom, and that's why they wanted one of their good ones named after Curate's egg. And we have this Premium Share Corporate Storm pup that won his maiden last week. He looks like he's got a bright future. He ran a quick time, quicker than the Derby on Saturday night. It doesn't always mean a lot, but you must be excited about his next start. And will you be heading out to Cannington to watch him?
I certainly hope so, Peter. Just on times the other night, I had a look at them and I thought, this dog is head and shoulders above them with a clear run. I mean, it just has to win. And whilst we held our breath, I think I heard you calling the race saying he got away only fairly. I think it was probably a bit worse than fairly. And he showed a lot of track sense just to hold the rail, get through in front of the green dog. And once he got turning into the back straight to the front, I think both you and I were heaving a collective sigh of relief because we knew it was all over.
And one final question from me before we let you go, because I know you've got a busy time today. KC, King's Counsel, what does that mean to you, being in the profession that you're in and having the title King's Counsel?
Well, I think I was very chuffed when I was made Queen's Counsel. That was nearly 26 years ago. And you never really think about it. It's a bit like having a title. Once you've had a title that long, it's like a young girl who gets married at the age of 25 or 26 having to change their name to something they've had all their life. And I remember hearing that the Queen had died, and I rang a bloke in Melbourne who was a QC. I said, what do we do now? What becomes of us? Because I hadn't really anticipated it. He says, well, you're a King's Counsel. I said, do we have to fill out any forms or anything like that? He said, no, it just happens. It's a matter of constitutional law. So, look, I always wore the title very proudly. I mean, There's 7,000 lawyers in Western Australia. There's 250 barristers, and there's 20 senior counsel who carry that title. Some of them have the new title. There's half a dozen who have the old one. So it's pretty special, and I treat it with great respect.
Great to have your friendship. Great to be a part owner of Curate's Egg with you. Hopefully there's plenty more wins left in store for us, and we might even be able to get across to Melbourne later this year if we dream big enough, Tom, to go across to the Nationals. He's a young pup, but he's got a bright future. Thanks for joining us. Have a good week.
Costs nothing to dream, Peter.
Good on you. Tom Percy, KC, joining us on Greyhound Gossip. First time and probably the only time we'll have a King's Counsel on our show, Leia.
What an absolute honour, Pete.
Yeah, the sport of Kings, and we've got the sport of greyhound racing and the King's Council this morning. We've got greyhound racing today at Northern, the Avon Valley Challenge. First time we've ever had that I've called a 721 metre race this afternoon. We get to see that, and the first of 12 races gets underway at 1:22. The WA Oaks coming up, as I mentioned, coming up on Saturday night. I'll just go through that market for those that missed it before. Belmac Blazers at $7, drawn 1. Whatever Shorty in 2 at 67. Kenya Mere 15, Flying Free to 350 and favourite in box 4. Ripping Grace 550, Disco Daisy 550, Tweak Freak 750, West on Blossom at $4. That's coming up on Saturday night. Looking forward to that. Looking forward to the drive up in the Avon Valley today. Hopefully you enjoyed Greyhound Gossip. We'll take a break, and after this we'll come back with Race Day with Leia Ernest.